Hey there, YouTube! Welcome on back to Artichokedip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And, well, here we are in the new year, 2021. And I took some time off of work. The wife wanted to redo the kitchen. Do some painting, some updating, some stuff like that. And we stayed pretty busy from the holiday moving forward to midweek doing that. She's happy, which means she's happy. I'm happy. We're all happy. So, with that, before I get into the video, if you like the video, please click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, you're new here, you just stumbled upon my channel, whatever it may be, click the subscribe button followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you get a notification so you won't miss one. But I am currently playing two different game systems right now. One being RuneQuest, and that's a campaign system I put together myself out of a different source material, which, if you've seen the first video, RuneQuest, I explain everything in there, and the source materials that I have drawn from to create that current, I guess you could say, campaign I'm playing. And the other one is Forbidden Lands. But today I wanted to get back into RuneQuest, play RuneQuest, and dive into the Forest of Memory. Except for I kind of ran into a little bit of a problem. I had two things going on that I had to confront. One, so a friend of mine, give a shout out to Lance out there, and he has always mentioned to me, he's like, if you had this angle on the board while you're playing the RPG and you're explaining what's going on and everything, would look so much better. So I used some of his ideas and played around with that, and he was right. It does look a lot better. I think it adds more into the video to where people can actually see what's going on the game board and they have a unique perspective of it. So I had the thought of, okay, what do I do about the background? And I decided to update that. Put some wall furnishings in, if you will, for the background. But two, the other thing was terrain. And if you've been subscribed to my channel for any amount of time, I love my terrain. I love miniatures. I like wargaming and miniature wargaming and stuff like that. It's my hobby. Some people compare it with model railroading, but well, me, I just like miniature wargaming. But I've been looking around at trees because I've noticed I have the trees that I use on my battle mats, and I've always been like, I don't have any really decent looking, old, decrepit, fantasy looking trees. And I've looked around, and it's out of sheer laziness is what it is. It's always easier to buy something that's already pre-made and you just have to paint it. And redoing the kitchen kind of rekindled something that I haven't done in a while, and it's been like, man, I really need to get back into actually crafting my own terrain and painting it and just stop being lazy and do it. And that's what I've done. And we're going to see how these turn out when I get to the table, but I decided, instead of trying to find something and purchase it and paint it, why not make what I imagined in my mind of these old decrepit trees in the Forest of Memory and bring them to life. And that's exactly what I did. Now, you'd be amazed if you're new into the hobby, and particularly if you're getting into miniature wargaming and stuff, and there's a whole lot of channels out there that cover this, but you'd be really amazed what you can do with a little bit of hot glue, a few toothpicks, and some paint. And that's all that is right there, believe it or not. So, alright, my friends, let's get to the tabletop and let's get this video started out, shall we? Okay, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit before I actually get into it. So I decided to put this in, as you can see here, which is really nothing that expensive. As a matter of fact, this is all stuff I got at the dollar store. Just a piece of regular foam board, and they sell this paper. It's supposed to be, I think the intention behind it is you put it behind a picture in a frame or something. It doesn't really matter. It only cost me $1. That's all it's concerned. I really like the fact that it looks like medieval flagstone. And I was like, you know what that'd be good for? Artichoke's gaming table. But I decided to set up, and I just want to talk about this a little bit, because if anybody out there is possibly interested, I could do a video tutorial on it, or if you're not, hey, that's fine too. But making, before I get into the actual play, is talking about the terrain pieces. Now, everything here you see, with the exception of these trees and that hut back there that I bought, and obviously the river, is I've made. Everything I've made, and I've made very cheaply and very quickly. So if you're struggling with getting terrain pieces for your board, you can make these things really cheaply with a little bit of glue, some foam board, and some paint, and you'd be amazed. Just like this little rock cropping right here that I've made, that's all it is. It's just foam board with a little bit of flocking on it and just some paint. It's pretty much all it is, but it looks good. It looks good on the board. And what gave me the I recently watched, and I can't remember, man, the name of the first Hobbit movie. I just recently watched that the other night, and the scene where Gandalf is leading them down to a hidden area behind a rock to Rivendell. And when I looked at that landscape and I seen the stones and the way they were stacked, but it had it was like a yellow field grass, and I'm guessing they filmed it in the fall in New Zealand. And anyways, it really intrigued me, and I'm like, man, I wish I had some of those terrain pieces for my game board. So I decided, well, why can't I make them? And boom, that's what I have. Alright, so I think that's enough with talking about the terrain. We can move on with the video, because there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on real quick before I get into gameplay. Okay, so one thing I can admit about Forbidden Lands that I really liked is the hex movement, the way that you track your movement, and the usage of a map. And I decided to go back through my old BattleTech maps, which you see here, and decided, because the book of Corwell, however you want to pronounce that, doesn't exactly give you an outline map of the Forest of Memory. You can kind of leave it up to you if you want to explore that. And I decided to use my old BattleTech map here, and I have a whole bunch of these. As a matter of fact, at one time you could buy a pack of like 20 of these for $5, I think. I mean, they're just paper, and anyways, that's insignificant. But what I liked about it is the fact that counting the hexes for movement from here to here, how many you can travel per day, and all that. And I really like that idea. And it really, to me, traveling in an RPG system it really helps a lot, and it really intrigued me to be like, well, hey, this is a solo RPG. I really liked it. Why can't I integrate this into my RuneQuest and use it? So that's, in fact, what I did. And I knew I would have to make up some randomized tables and perhaps even a matrix in order to do that, and that's what I did here. I put in my hex matrix, and I have it down to percentage. So when I move into a new hex, I can either find a terrain feature, encounter a trap, have a common encounter, a rare encounter, find a dungeon, and or ruins. And of course I have my sub list here of random encounters, and moving on from there I go into my traps, which I have numbered, dungeons, ruins. And I even made my matrix of common encounters for RuneQuest, and this correlates with the second edition monster booklet for RuneQuest and the new third edition bestiary. I can never pronounce that right. And then of course my uncommons, which are a lot more tougher and are going to pose a greater risk, if you will, in the campaign, obviously, because yeah, they're just a bigger, meaner overall encounter to be dealt with. And static electricity. And then I even went as far as here to, when I'm searching an area, these are going to be randomized things that I'm going to be able to find. So I've kind of created this little matrix for myself. I just wanted to explain that before I get into it. I know it's a little bit long-winded, and I know everybody's probably thinking, come on, just get into the gameplay. Let's get into the gameplay. But, which gets me to my other thing. Here's my matrix. But I decided to set up a secondary camera where we can watch dice rolls as well, because I know some people ask for that as well. So I kind of updated a few things, and I hope you guys enjoy, and well, let's get into it. Okay, so where my story continues is my three characters, Turin Borlin and Daylon Fallshadow and Jerill Stormwound. They had reached Master Talos's quarters, which are way back here in the corner, and they did not find him there. He was missing, and there was some evidence that there may possibly a struggle. So they decided at this point, because they have a message from the king that they're supposed to deliver into his hands, to be able to help with this encroaching danger of this large force of orcs that are threatening to overtake the realm, if you will. And unfortunately with them, because they know they have the protection and the backing, there's all these other horrible, get out of there Gandalf, creatures that are also spreading across the forest and causing all kinds of problems as well. So they don't know what they're supposed to, information they're supposed to learn, because they haven't met up with Master Talos yet. They're still trying to find him. They just got there, and they're like, we need to find him. And so they decided, even without him as a guide, that perhaps it would be better off if they entered the forest of memory and went looking for him themselves. Now, the forest of memory, if you want to think about it, is like a large, massive graveyard, if you will. That's where the dead are buried, and trees are planted to in memory of past loved ones. But hidden within the forest of memory, there is a very powerful shrine to be able to summon their deity, if you will. And it's in a hidden location that only Master Talos knows how to get to. So, this is where the story picks up. The characters have ventured into the Forest of Memory. I've marked my area on the map here. As you can see, I got my little marker here. And using my matrix, let's see what we get first as they cross into the Forest of Memory. So one of the things I found out when I was switching between the two cameras, because I got two cameras hooked up to my computer, was when I switched to the HD camera to do the actual dice rolls, sometimes because it's such a small segment, I found that it really didn't capture the roll. As a matter of fact, it was more just like an image, a JPEG image, if you will. So as you'll see as I move later on into the video, I decided to use just one camera, and I moved the dice tray up into the camera area to where you could actually see the dice rolls from there, and I would narrate what was going on from there on out. So moving forward, I guess I will try some different tactics maybe and see if it works a little bit better. I think it turned out pretty good though with how I wound up doing it, and it certainly sped up my game time as well, because I found getting to this point, going into my program, selecting that camera, rolling the dice, closing that window out, going into the other window for the next camera, and pick back up was kind of a little tedious and a lot of work to say the least. So yeah, I figured I would just throw that in here into the video so you'd understand if you're going, well, hey, where are the rolls at? That's what happened to them. Let's move on. So as my characters, they enter into the Forest of Memory, there's a few things that catch their attention. The first thing is they hear the sound of running water, and they can see this river beyond the forest that they're at. And as they're following along what appears to be a trail, which takes them in between these two trees. So at that point, there is a trap. And the trap that I rolled and I came up with was, in fact, a spear trap. Now, let's see. First things first. So, Andriel's leading the way, and good thing this is a skill-heavy game system because it's got 15% to spotting a trap. That's pretty low, but anyways, let's see what I get here. See if he spots anything or not. A 75. I don't think that's gonna work out too well. Okay. So the fact that he did not see that, as he approaches the path that seems to go between these two trees, at that point he notices that the ground feels a little spongy, and he hears a distinct click. Alright. At that point, a trap is deployed, and unfortunately, unlike D&D, you don't get saving throws here. About the only thing I could do is try to roll against my dexterity, and I don't think that's going to work. So I'm going to have to go against my defense bonus and hopefully see if my armor offers what of protection against this trap. So let me see what I get there. I just have to roll lower than a 75, which is good. 37. And 20% that I get from my defense would take me down to a 17, which is good. So my armor will offer protection, but unfortunately I have the damage to deal with. The damage is 1d6. It's going to be 1 point. My armor protection is a armor protection of 1. So I want to know, just out of curiosity, where it hit him. Okay, so as the trap went off and the spear came out, luckily the trap was not set that well. The spear came out, and at that point, instead of piercing through the leather armor that he's wearing into his leg, it more or less, if you will, cracked him really good into the leg. More or less scaring him, if you will. Okay, so luckily I don't have to worry about anybody dying at this point, but this definitely does create very, very unique mindset, if you will, because at this point they're going to have to be a whole lot more careful as they move through, instead of just moving through the forest of memory somewhat lapsy-daisical, thinking just because 2 of them are elves and 1 of them is a human, I guess you would refer to as like a human ranger, if you will, that the fact that they're pretty much immune, but in fact they are not. So that's good. That's I'm glad it went well, and I'm glad I didn't lose any characters to that. Okay, I think the next thing I'm going to do is going to roll my spot check again and proceed cautiously towards the river. So let's see how that goes. I'm gonna just do a roll real quick. That's a 98. Oh man, that's horrible. That's an epic fail. Okay, so being certain there's nothing left, he proceeds to move closer to the river. Which means there's another trap that has not yet been deployed. And the fact that it's an epic fail, 98, is just an epic fail. This really, really, really stinks. And unfortunately, another trap, another spear is set off. Let me see if that spear in fact hits him. Let's get back to... Okay, so I'm gonna resolve it this way. First thing is, I'm gonna roll the location, and that would be a 17. Let me check my chart here real quick. It's gonna be his left arm, if in fact this does. Now, the fact that it's an epic fail means he's completely unaware of it. And now I'm gonna roll and see just 61%. Okay, and just his normal defense bonus is a 20. So I bring him down to a 52. Even though it's an epic fail, and luckily he was able to pass out of the line of sight before the spear deployed. And let me get back to the tabletop. Okay. So, as he moves up towards the river, he hears the sound of another spear going, poof, and right where he was standing, the spear at that point impales itself into the ground. I think at this point, I don't know if I want to send my other two characters through there. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I think what I'm going to do is because I don't really want to send my guys back through here. If there's another epic fail, there could be another spear left in there that could be dislodged from this trap. So I think at this point I'm going to split him up and have him continue down the river this way and have my other two characters meet with them further down here. Now, what I want to know, and I'm going to roll this to the die, is I want to see if there's anything possibly in the area that may have heard this ruckus. And I'm going to roll that just real quick. %. That's a relatively low percentage. So what I was rolling for is I wanted to see if there's anything else in the general vicinity that may be a threat to them that they may have to be worried about, which doesn't look like it. That's a pretty low roll. Okay, so I'm going to have two things I'm going to have to skill checks I'm going to have to do. One, Endrel's going to follow the river down, so he's going to have to do a swimming check. And the other two, I'm going to have to roll for a terrain and to see what kind of terrain, because they're going off of the path, if you will, and to see what they run into. So let me do the terrain real quick right now for the other two. Rolled the wrong one. I needed to roll a 20-sider for that. Okay. So that will be a 17. That'll be a tall, grassy area, and that's going to cost them 2 hex movement points in order to reach their destination point. The river is also going to cost 2 hex movement points, and there's only 8 hex movements. When I say 8 hex movements on the map, let me show you that real quick. Just to clarify, I just want to clarify here with movement of hexes on the map. So obviously maps in RPG games, tabletop RPG games, even electronic games, maps are like not a new idea, right? But the way that Forbidden Lands uses theirs, moving into a new hex and all that, I really like that. But I decided to, what I wanted to do for my solo RPG, and I think for a lot of my RPGs as I move forward, I'm going to implement this because I really do like it, is the fact that you track your day through so many hex movements across the map. Now, D&D has done this. Second edition, Forgotten Realms, they gave you a nice clear layout that had the hex grids that you would lay over the maps and track your movement for your day, so on and so forth as you move. So it's nothing new, but the nice thing about it is I can adjust the parameters of the terrain to reflect. So, for instance, if my characters move into a heavy forest, it's going to cost them 2 hex points to be able to move out of that hex and into the next hex. Considering they only get 8 per day, and depending on the terrain that they move into, such as marsh or swamp or what have you, that at that point the hex movement goes up, it's going to reflect and dramatically slow down your movement for the day and increase the amount of encounters you may encounter throughout that day as well. So I just wanted to clarify that and throw that in there. It's I like it, and it adds a little bit more challenge. It, to me, in my opinion, it seems to speed things up a little bit, and it doesn't leave you, the solo enthusiast, or even if you're DMing to a group, kind of in limbo as to how long is it going to take for us to get from point A to point B on this map. Well, at that point, if everything goes well, you can mark it out and say it's going to take this many days. So as Andriel enters into the river, and at first he thinks it's relatively shallow, and he's following the river down this area, which is very tall reeds and grass, if you will. He hits a drop off, and at that point is caught by surprise, and at that point goes underwater. Meanwhile, as my other 2 characters here, Daylon Fallshadow and Turin Marlene, are traversing this tall grass, it's at that point they find out that, well, they're not alone as they once thought. First thing I want to do, with Turin, let me see, who's in the front? That's going to be Turin. I'm going to roll his tracking skill, and I really want to see if I'm going to just roll his tracking skill right quick, and I gotta have a 20%, and I have a 96, so yeah, I'm not rolling too well tonight. So anyways, as they're traversing this tall grass, and unbeknown to him, the fresh clumps of soil that they are walking over, at that point they are overcome with the odor of rotting flesh, and through the dark light of the forest, at that point 3 silhouettes come into focus in front of them. Okay. Now, why you never split the party up? Oh. Okay, so meanwhile, Endril, I'm gonna have to see if he can. Oh, jeez, this is gonna be rough, man. I gotta see if I'm gonna do another roll and see if he's actually saved himself, or if he's just still, well, drowning at that point. So let's see. Come on. Okay, unfortunately, he's rolled a 66. He's not doing too well. As a matter of fact, the drop off was a lot deeper than he thought, and he's got caught into a undertow current, if you will, and at that point moves him further down the river underwater. Meanwhile, Turin and Daylon. Let me see here. Who's got the better of the two listening? That's going to be Daylon. The way I'm rolling, I need all the luck I can get. %. No, man, I am just rolling horrible tonight. Maybe it's time for a new set of dice. These dice are just not treating me too well. Unfortunately, they're walking right into a mess. So let's get back to the table. Okay. So it's at this point, Endrail is moving further down the river. Underwater at that point, being carried along, and I'll have to deal with that here in a minute. And as they're traversing this area, they're unknown to them. There's 3 silhouettes, and this is not going too well. They didn't hear it and they didn't see it, which means they are just walking right into it. And I think at this point, I'm going to leave this up to a good old roll-off with a 10-sider each. Now, I did change up my dice because of the fact that I think I left my dice out in the tray for so long, and they just went cold, so I grabbed some new dice. So, I'm going to call the white die for my side, the black die for the encounter side. Let's see how it goes. And that would be a 4 for the encounters and a 3 for my side. Okay. At that point, Daylon Fall Shadow, who's this guy right here, happens to notice something weird about the movements of these silhouettes as they notice them, and the movements trigger something in his brain to make him at that point ready a weapon. And he is going to equip his longbow, and at that point Turin is going to equip his bastard sword, and it's going to go over to how do I want to do this? I don't want to advance because he's going to be outnumbered. I'm going to give him the option to fire off 1 arrow, and then at that point everything's going to just start as normal. I think that's going to be the best way to do this. So let's get to that. Daylon Fall Shadow. Attack bonus is a plus 25. Let me see what he gets here. There would be 80% minus his attack bonus that he has. Would take him down to a 55. Alright, so let me look at my encounter here. The encounter does have a 40% to a dodge bonus. And let's see how they do with dodge. 93? No, it ain't gonna help it out whatsoever. Alright, I'm just gonna move into hit location and damage. So Hit location 12. Ooh, I like this. Let's see, wait a minute. So it'll be 3 points to the chest area, which is nice. Okay, so the arrow hits this guy right here, dead smack center of the chest. Just a loud boom is heard. Now at this point it all goes off a strike rank normal round, and let's go by the strike rank and we're gonna move on from there. So that would be Turin would have the first round. Man, I really don't want to overrun him, but I don't think I have any choices here. So Turin's going to move in there, and let's roll and see how he goes with this, eh? Ooh, 20%. Okay, his attack bonus is to 25. That puts him at a -5. That means the opponent gets 40% to a dodge bonus. Let's see what the opponent gets. 90%. Yeah, it's not going to help him whatsoever. So it's just moving straight into damage. Let me roll the hit location first. Hit location being 11, which will be right to the chest again. Oh man. And unfortunately with Turin, he does get a damage bonus, so it's 1d10 with 1d6 to the chest area. And we have rolled 3 points, which is not too shabby. His sword comes down and just right into this putrid flesh, and the creature buckles for a moment from the sword. At that point, Daylon Fallshadow gets to take his turn, and Daylon has an elvish longbow. He has a strike rank of 3, which means that reflects how your rate of fire as well. So he's going to be able to fire 3 arrows. Let's do the first roll and see how that goes. First roll. 98. Oh my god. That's not good. That's not good. I gotta go to the fumble. So, one thing about this system, RuneQuest, that I can tell you that really makes the game interesting. If you're looking for a solo experience that has plenty of twists and turns, I suggest giving this a try. Built into the rules is the fumble system. Now, I know if you play D20 systems, you're familiar with this, but this is pretty brutal. So on a roll 96 and above, it's considered a fumble. You automatically roll on the fumble table for combat. Now, lower the roll, the better. Where, especially with your attacks, you get your attack bonus, you roll your dice, and you subtract that number from your roll, because you want a lower roll to be able to succeed. And, well, this game doesn't disappoint. as we continue on a little bit further into it, you're going to see sometimes these fumbles can be a real game changer. But that's the thing I like about this system. I strongly urge you to check it out if you're looking for, well, a game that will post a good challenge to you. Man. Okay, I gotta get to the fumble chart because 55. Fail and lose party this round. Take D3 rounds to get up. Oh man. So D3. So I'm gonna use a 6-sider. 1 through 2 will be 1, 3 through 4 will be 2, 5 through 6 will be 3. Let's see how I roll. 2 rounds. So at this point, as he goes to fire his arrow and this loose turned up soil that they're standing on, that they have not identified yet, he loses his footing and he falls into a hole in the ground, if you will. Unfortunately, the arrow goes off widely into the forest, and let's move on to Endrill before I take their turn on. Oh man, poor Torin. So Endrill currently at this point, I have to see if he has righted himself yet. If not, he's just going to take 2 hit points of damage direct to his hit points. His swimming skill is a 30%. He rolled a 40%. Unfortunately, he's trying to tread water, but to no avail, and he's still caught in that undertow, and he's going to take 2 points of hit point damage direct off his hit points. And unfortunately, he's going to move down that river a little bit more. Okay, now it's the encounter's turn. Unfortunately, the creature that he hit, that he thought he mortally wounded, recoils and lunges at him as these other 2 follow up behind him, almost like follow the leader. And they do get 2 attacks each. And this is going to be ugly. First attack. They get up 70%. Of course they do. Oh man, 28. Yeah, there's 28. Turin, I can try to parry. My parry bonus is a 15%. Or defend, which is a 15%. I'm just going to parry. Oh, that's a 0, 0, 0, which is absolute 100% awesome. And I do, well, parry, and now the second attack, unfortunately, I parried that attack without any... I parried that attack critically, but unfortunately, that's all that means. I just parried the attack. I don't have to worry about my weapon taking any damage, but there still is another attack. And that being 47%, and I have to try to beat that. And I think I'm just going to do a defense at this point. Hopefully 48. My defense bonus is a 15. Should give me a 33. Hey, I will take that. That means even though I defended, I have to see where the damage was delivered to. Okay, as the creature lunges at his right arm, he's able to use his sword pummel and boom the thing upside the head as it tries to take a chunk out of him. Alright, now at this point it's going to go back to round number 2. And I'm going to start with Dalon at this point. Is the first, but unfortunately he cannot do anything because he's crawling up out of this hole. So that's going to be his first of 2 rounds. The second one is going to take me to Turin, and let's see what Turin does. Hopefully this attack goes off well. Ooh, yeah. So I got an attack bonus of 25. I rolled a 24, which is going to take me to a -1. The encounter has a 40% to dodge. 0, 3. Because if the other one was a 0, that would count as definite 0. I'm going to go with a 103. And at that point, I'm going to roll my hit location. And my damage. 1d8, 1d6. No, wait a minute. Is that right? 1d10, 1d6. Which will be a total of 13. To the left arm. Alright, so Turin at that point swings his sword right in and cleaving through the left arm of this creature and into its chest area, finally does the job at that point as the sword comes across, taking its head off its shoulders and ending this thing permanently. Unfortunately, now I have to go back to Endril. Let's see what's going on with Endril here, and hopefully he finds some dry footing. Because if not, it's gonna really... I don't want a total party kill. That would really stink. Alright. 30%, 30%, 30. Okay, 35. I can work with that. It's within the realm of possibility, and at that point, Endril, as he's being dragged underneath the river by the current, it latches on to some fallen debris at the bottom of the river, logs, rocks, stuff like that, and is able to pull himself out of the current and into shallower water to where at that point he's able to get his head above water and get a big breath of fresh air as he's crawling towards the river's edge. Okay. Now, Encounter's turn. The encounters at that point move up in. Oh. And Daylon still has one more round before he can crawl out of this hole he's so clumsily fell into. So at this point, it goes back to the encounter. Alright. Let me see how he does here. Wow. 109. 109. For his first attack, the good thing is that's like horrible. I'm gonna roll my defense regardless for that. My defense is a 58, minus my 25. It doesn't. First attack does nothing. Second attack, 70. And let me see what their bonus is. Which would take him down to a 20%. Ooh. I'm going to use my parry bonus on this one. Oh man, no way. 99%. That is a fumble. Let's see what the fumble is. Anything over 100, which I rolled 103. Blow it badly, roll 3 on this table, and apply all 3 results. Oh my god. First roll. Weapon dropped. Takes D3 rounds to recover. Drop my weapon. Oh man. Armor broken. So I'll resolve that. So weapons dropped, armor's broken. I'm going to re-roll that because I'm not going to roll another 3. Okay. There we go. Okay. Well, might as well roll the creature's hit location. Where the creature hit my character, not the other way around. So, as the creature lunges at him, he grabs a hold of his left leg, knocking him off balance, and he, at that point, well, loses his weapon out of his hand, and the creature is able to bite through the leather armor, ripping the straps away from his leg, and it starts, at that point, its putrid, nasty, rotten teeth begin to dig into his leg. And now it's time for damage. 3 points. Okay, so at this point, Torin is screaming in pain. A large chunk of his flesh is missing out of his leg. And he is, at this point, bleeding pretty profusely. Unfortunately, because of the wound, and he has been bitten by a ghoul, I have to, at that point, resolve the ghoul venom. So one little tip that I can give you, particularly when you play RPG solo, and it's either take time to make a DM screen for yourself, or if they have one for the game, I would strongly suggest picking it up, just for situations like this. And I picked up this one for RuneQuest, and it gives you just a tremendous amount of tables and other conversions, plus it comes with some pretty cool art on it to do as well. So now this is for the most recent, this is for the 3rd edition of the game, but they're all compatible. The cool thing about it, particularly like with the resistance, is I can look through the table and access, okay, he's going to have to be able to resist the ghoul venom. Now, in the edition I'm playing in right now, it doesn't really give you a skill check for that or anything to check against with that so much, but whereas if it's considered in this game, and the nice thing is it gives you the conversion, tells you what stats to use, add those together, and it's going to give you your base score. So for some of those of you watching out there that may have this older version of RuneQuest that are watching, going, where did he come up with that? That's where I came up with this. And I find a lot of RPG games that I enjoy to play solo, I invest and get the DM screen just for the fact that you have those quick reference tables right there in front of you, and you can glance right over it and do the conversions very, very simply. So just another little tip for you guys out there. Let's get back to the game. I'm going to have to see if he can resist it. And he has... So he's going to have a 31% resistance. Unfortunately, the potency of the ghoul venom is a 22. So, well, yeah. Ugh. 97%. It's not a fumble, but yeah, I didn't really pass that well at all. So at this point, as Turin's holding his leg and there's blood pouring out of it with a big chunk of flesh missing from it, he begins to feel his leg go numb, and that sensation quickly spreads through his body to the point of, for the next 2 hours, he is going to be paralyzed from the venom. That is, if the ghouls don't devour him first. But at this point, he is incapacitated. Okay. Now, Turin's down for the count. He is getting eaten by the ghouls, and Daylon Fall Shadow, at that point, finally crawls out of the hole And as he regains his footing, he can see his friend lying incapacitated, his weapon at that point over here, and blood pouring out of his leg as these two ghouls are getting ready to move in on him and start tearing him to shreds. Now, screw it, I'm just going to start lobbing arrows. I ain't got time to cast a spell or anything else like that. So that's all I'm going to do, is just start lobbing some arrows. Total of 3 attacks here. So first attack, it's going to be 45. The ghouls, that ghoul can beat this. I hope it doesn't. 49 minus 40 would be 9%. Ugh. So the first arrow, the ghoul at that point is able to dodge that attack. Second attack, 29 minus. Okay, so that's going to be 4%. That's going to be real hard to. Let me see what they get. A 79. Just going to roll hit location and damage at that point. So the arrow just cracks right into the right leg of the ghoul, slowing it, well, as much as it possibly can slow the undead. But he's got one more attack to go, so let's see how that plays out. 87. That'd be 62 with his bonus, and the ghoul rolls a 21 plus it's 40 for, yeah. So, unfortunately, the ghoul is able to dodge the other arrow. And, well, that's not good. Because at that point, the ghoul is now going to move into Daylon's area and is going to lunge and attack at him. And he's going to get 2 attacks, which is horrible. First attack. 9, and, yeah. That's going to be negative 40. There's no way for me to even defend against that. Oh my god. 1d4. It's going to be 2 points. Points to the left leg. Oh boy. And then, of course, its second attack. Which is 55. Oh, which is going to be 5%, but at least it's not a negative number, so at least there's a glimmer of hope. Man, I guess I'm just going to do. I'm going to parry with my defense bonus, which will be 20. Just give me a flat 30%. No. Location is a 14, and it's going to do 1d6 damage. Well, this isn't going to be very nice. So AP take 1, that's going to take me down. The ghoul at that point, as he lunges in at Daylon, one claw thrashes at his left leg, and as he's caught off guard from that, it lunges at his right leg just at that point, biting through the leather armor into his flesh, just like his buddy over here, and tearing out a large section of flesh. So, I gotta do a resilience roll for him. Which is going to be 31. And the potency is a 22. So rolled a 34. That's good. Let me see the against potency. Oh, thank God. Okay, so I am able to resist the ghoul venom, if you will, at that point, and I am just dealing with a hunk of flesh missing out of his leg. Luckily, no fumbles or anything else like that. Now let's move on to Endrail, who is much further down here, and I'm going to have to roll and see what kind of terrain he's in at this point. And okay, that would be a 7. Nice thing is, he emerges, and it's no longer tall grass, it's more a forest, but let's see. Okay. This will take a rather interesting twist in the story. So, as he emerges from the river and crawls out, he finds himself unaware as to where he actually is. Located in a forest. Unfortunately, he sees something that kind of catches him off guard. He sees what appears to be the corner of old ruins, if you will. Old construction site that has seemed to fall into lost to time, if you will. And unfortunately, I'm going to roll his tracking skill. I want to see if he is even aware as to where he's at, if he even has his bearings, or if he's just completely lost at that point. So, 20% for his tracking skill. 42. No. He's completely, he has no idea where he's at. He doesn't recognize the surroundings, nothing. Now, fortunately, we have this last ghoul here to deal with. And this guy is paralyzed. He moves in, and at that point begins to feast on him. And I think this is going to be the end of Daylon, unfortunately. I hope not. Not Daylon, Tauren, I mean. Okay, so he's paralyzed, he can't move. I'm just going to roll and see which area the ghoul begins to feast on him. His right leg. That'd be a 4 and a 6. Fortunately, at this point, the ghoul has proceeded to literally eating and tearing his right leg off, completely off his body. And there's not a whole lot he can do about it. He's paralyzed and poisoned at this point. Now, not all hope is gone, if you will. Daylon, even though he's got a chunk missing out of his leg, can still fight. I'm gonna hobble him back, and if I cast the spell, it's gonna take the turn to cast the spell on this arrow. I'm gonna cast Fire Arrow, and he's gonna prepare that arrow. His movement, he's going to be able to move half, I'm going to say. So he was here, so 5, 10. I'm going to move him back there to try to get him out of at least give him some cover so we can concentrate on the spell. Now, that's going to leave Andriel. Andriel's going to be a whole completely separate thing altogether on his own. He's a kind of off in left field, broken off from everybody else. I'm just going to focus on these guys right here at this point. So, first things first. The ghoul, of course, is going to go and try to attack again. His first action will be to move up, and his second action will be an actual attack. So, 96. Oh, that's a fumble. Let's see what he fumbled. Or what will apply to him, I should say. 104. Okay, that's 74. Distracted. Okay, that plays into it very well. And then 55. Okay, as the ghoul moves in to try to bite Daylon, at that point it shields its eyes and it's all disorientated. Daylon, as he's focusing on a spell, and his hand is glowing a fiery red and emitting light onto the arrow shaft itself. Kind of saved the day, if you will. But, unfortunately, this thing is still feasting on him, and there's nothing he can really do about it at this point. So, it's at that point... Hit location will be 7. Oh man, what is it with legs in these things? 2 points. The ghoul at that point is attempting to now rip his left leg from his body to begin to devour, which is just horrible. Okay, this gives me time. Endrail, we're just going to leave that off. That's going to be a whole different ball of wax right there. So I'm just going to, at that point, put Endrail behind the stone wall. He is more or less somewhere else at another time at this point. Daylon. I'm going to take a step back. And I'm going to fire this arrow at this ghoul that is disorientated and has no idea what's getting ready to happen to him. Which would bring me down to an 84 with my bonus. Alright, which is let me see here. Well, which isn't all that bad because the ghoul rolled 0, 0, 0, 0, which means did not hit the ghoul. The arrow goes off, and at that point, when it hits, here, I'll put my fire marker there. As the arrow hits right there, and it erupts into flame, just boom, unfortunately not doing damage. But at this point, alright, I'm going to roll these, and I'm going to see if they flee from the fire, or if the lure of fresh meat is just too much to entice them to stay. So there's a 43%, so I have to roll. What did I get? A 61. No. At that point, they decide maybe the meal is not worth it and begin to retreat away from the fire deeper into the tall grassy areas away from them. Alright. Oh, jeez. I'm going to have Daylon go over here and assess his wounds. And unfortunately, the guy that can do healing is nowhere to be found. So, that'd be a 33% using my intelligence and power to be able to try to heal him, to at least stop the bleeding and well, get him out of the area. So let's do the healing thing first and see how that works out. If not, he's going to suffer 1d4 hit points due to blood loss. 45. Unfortunately, the wound is just too much. He's going to take 3 more points of damage. So I'm going to see if Daylon will be able to at least drag him off out of that area and back to somewhat of a safer area. So let's see, it's going to be 27% for that. Using my, do I want to use athletics? 93. No, No, he's not able. He's so wounded himself, he's unable to try to pick him up and move him to cover. And let me see here. I can cast protection though. I'm going to cast protection in the max amount I can. On Turin, which will boost his armor protection to 4, which means minus his leg that's missing all his other armor will go up to armor protection of 5. And at that point, I am going to have him basically keep watch to make sure if anything else comes into the area, it's going to be pretty well dead. I've already got as a matter of fact, a arrow knocked, and at this point, let's say this fire has died out. Let's see what the percentage is of them returning. Let me just roll basic. 14%, so that's pretty low. 15%, but hey. So regardless, these ghouls pretty much lingered in the as far away from the fire light radius as they possibly could, considering to go in there to finish getting their meal, but then at that point something else must have gotten their attention and they wandered off into that area to go look for another meal, if you will. As the paralysis wears off, and let me see how many hours have passed first. I'm going to roll a d4 for that. So 2 hours have passed. He has lost dang it, let me roll that again. 1 and another 1. He's lost 2 more hit points. It's at that point Turin is able to move at that point, and Dalon assists them as best as he can and moves them back out of the area, retracing the steps to the way that they came in, which will be through this way where this whole debacle started. As they pass back out of the grassy area back onto the trail, I gotta roll and see if anything has changed in that amount of time. Oh man. As they find their way back onto the trail, I want to see if Dalon notices this or not, or if he's just oblivious to it. So I'm going to roll his listen check, which is a 70%. He should be able to 88. No. Okay. So as it grows later into the afternoon, and at that point, man, I cannot believe you missed that. Put that there. So as they get, it's later in the afternoon, as they reach back to the trail, as they're moving along, at that point, they cross paths with something that maybe is not a very good time for it. Unknown to Daylon, as he takes a step, he feels the earth underneath him at that point move quickly. And as his eyes focus, to his dismay, if you will, he notices this long, slender, segmented body with a whole lot of legs. And it doesn't take long before he realizes what he's looking at is quite a large centipede. Alright. Unfortunately, that's a hit. I'm just going to use his defense. Get 20% of that, taking down to a 55. No, unfortunately, before Daylon can move, the thing rears its segment up, and its two large pinchers come in and sink right into him. Let's see where it hits him. Oh my god. Ooh. Oh, this is going to be horrible. Okay. Well, he's going to take 6 points. 6 points. Welp. Unfortunately, Turin, being extremely wounded, missing a leg, and clinging onto life, the last thing he has in this world of a ray of hope of what they have just endured, is Daylon, as he clings on to him for balance and strength, if you will. And to his horror, he sees this giant centipede rear up. Its large mandible pinchers come out, and at that point, on both sides of Daylon's head, they just crunch, in the audible sound of his skull crunching as its pinchers dig in. He can feel Daylon as he stumbles to try to keep his balance with one leg and heavily wounded. At that point, drug underneath the centipede as it curls up and just begins to feast on him. Yeah. Well, he's out of the game. I guess I'm gonna do the only thing he can do, which is just I'm gonna swing wildly at the thing. I have nothing else to lose at this point. He's dying from blood loss anyways, and yep, Daylon's gone. It's gonna be back to Turin, and $68. That's not bad. My attack bonus, that'd be 43. So with my attack bonus, I have a total of 43. Alright, I'm just going to roll hit location and damage to see what this thing does. Segment number 5, and I do get, well, 1d6, 1d10. Seven. So as he swings the sword and he's able to crack the exoskeleton on the centipede, I don't think it's gonna. I might as well just put that back. The centipede's going to, at that point, retaliate, and it's going to get 2 attacks. Its first attack which is a 93. Which, it's not a fumble, but it's not all that great. Now, with its bonus, that would take it down to 62%. So, Turin got a 20% for his parry. Let's see how he does. I rolled a 66. That'd be a 46 against his 63. So he's able to parry it successfully. Unfortunately, this thing gets another attack. 57. Oh, that's in the negatives. That's going to be -12, which means I'm going to have to roll a critical in order to defend against this. And what do I roll? An 80%. No. Fortunately, this thing's going to roll its hit location and damage. 16. 2. Oh, man. Luckily, the armor slows it down, but it does pierce into his skin. Now, I have to see if I can resist the potency of its venom. That's going to be, so I have to have 31% in order to resist the poison. No. Nope. So I automatically take another point of damage to that location. And 3d10. 8. Next 16 minutes, I have a -8 to my constitution, which will leave me at an 8. Oh my god. Okay. Wow. I'm just gonna try to swing at this thing again and see what I can do. 58%. There's my 25. Should take me down to 20.
8. Yeah, I hit. Okay. Just got 102. Location's 10. Not that I'm going to do a whole lot of damage, but hey, what the heck. 8. Alright, so I do hit the segment. As the sword comes down, it hits the segment, and it almost cuts this thing in half at that point. The centipede is, at that point, curling rapidly, and it's gonna lose its next turn. It's just boom, 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 boom. It's oozing insect blood everywhere and trying to reconcile its injury. And at that point, because I'm only half constitution, I gotta see if I have it in me. I'm gonna roll an athletics check to see if I even strengthen. Oh yeah. $37. So okay. So that would be a +5 penalty to my attack. So let me see. I'm going to do that. I got a 60%. Oh, no, here we go. 35. 40. Okay, so I might finish this thing off after all. 3. Ooh, cool. Same area I just struck. Five more points. Okay. So despite everything, he is able to swing his sword again and literally cut the insect into 2. At that point, what's left of its head crawls off towards the tall grass, and the other half of the large body just at that point is sitting there wiggling around until it stops moving. Unfortunately, there's nothing he can do for his friend. He is gone, to say the least. And with that, I have to roll and see how many more hit points and blood loss that he lost from this. So that's going to be 2. I'm going to roll that one more time. He's lost 4 more hit points due to blood loss. Yeah, he's not doing too well at this point. He's pretty much crawling his way back up the trail. I'm gonna roll a percentage to see what the chances are that he makes it back to Mr. Master Talos's quarters before, or if he dies before then. Let me just see. 38%. Okay, so he's able to, despite his blood loss and everything, crawl his way back to Master Talos's quarters. And I think at this point, this is where I'm going to leave this video off right here. I think, yeah. Wow. One thing about RuneQuest, man, this can be one deadly system.
Alright, my friends, there you have it. That was my RuneQuest game session. And I have to admit, well, RuneQuest can be a tough game. I mean, I love RuneQuest. The battle is very cinematic. But, man, sometimes it works in your favor, and other times it just, well, as you saw, just decimates you. But regardless, that's the fun of gaming. That's why I love gaming. That's why I love solo RPG. So with that in mind, if you guys enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Let me know if you liked the content. And if you're new here, you just stumbled across my channel, or perhaps you were just looking up RPG, however you came upon it, don't forget to click that subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you're going to get a notification so you don't miss one. So moving ahead, I'm hoping to get into doing some other games, maybe some board games, maybe some new RPGs. I'm going to see how that rolls, and yeah, what my how do I put this? How my interests are going to fall and what I want to game and what genre I want to game in at that point. So I guess we'll find out in the future on that one. So with that being said, my friends, thanks for watching the video, and thanks for all the great comments. Thank you for the likes and everything else you do for me from the bottom of my heart, guys. Thank you so much. And this is Artichokedip signing off.